Deltas have long played an important role in human history. These fertile areas where rivers flow into large bodies of water have served as fishing, farming, and living sites for human and wildlife. This river is a lifeline here, and it meanders down to these plains before joining the Indian Ocean at Kipini.
Imekuwa hali ngumu ya maisha, na ile hali ngumu ililetwa na hawa watu wa kulima wa hii shamba hii.
Mwaka wa 90 hali ya maji pia ilikuwa punguani tena, na hapo sasa ndipo hii athari ya chumvi kuingia katika mashamba ikawa kubwa zaidi.
Here we are at Kalota, and this water is ocean water. It's about 2 or 3 times as salty as the ocean. There's not enough water in the delta to do the tidal rice cultivation. So in order to keep as much water in the river as possible, the people downstream have closed off this Kalota branch. But what happens when there's no more fresh water coming into this branch is that the ocean at each spring tide, at the high tide, and especially at the equinox in March and September, the ocean comes further and further in.
Sai hebu angalia hii msitu, hii forest. Alikuwa maisha yake hakuna mtu ameingia ndani, lakini maji yao imekosa maji, miti zote ya asili sasa inaanza kukauka.
Ng'ombe nakufa.
There is no doubt that environmental degradation and poor strategic management have seriously threatened the delta. All of a sudden, communities are finding themselves sandwiched between unfriendly neighbors.
Tumevamiwa. Pande ya jua la kutoka tumenyanganywa na settlement scheme. Na hii settlement scheme haki ilikuwa ni sisi wenyewe tupatiwe alafu wageni wapatiwe. Lakini sasa 80% imepatiwa wageni ya kutoka nje.
Local and international companies have lined up numerous multi-million ventures that are to be implemented in this area. These include oilseed farming, sugarcane plantations, crops for biofuels, mining and exploration for oil and gas.
Namna ambao serikali wamefikiria na sisi tuishi namna ile ya panda ile, sisi hatuwezi kuishi namna hiyo.
Ngombe, maisha ni ngombe, kuna maisha mengine.
KenWeb, Kenya Wetlands Biodiversity Research Initiative, was established due to the high demand for knowledge on wetlands in East Africa. As a result of working together for the past 10 years, these experts have now developed an assessment methodology to provide accurate and quick-time valuation of wetland resources, ecosystem values, and user strategies.
We decided to put this team together to enable us to put efforts to have a multidisciplinary team, a team of all taxa groups in terms of biodiversity, and experts in floods and limnology, hydrobiology, whatever field is necessary. We even have people working on social economic.
And being a Ramsar site basically means that it's a globally recognized site because of its biodiversity importance, because of its cultural importance, because of the social economic potential that the Tana Delta has.
For us, there are 2 main big issues. One is about water. The other one is about land.
Now, for about 10 years, most of the water goes into the eastern branch, and the western branch has kind of died. So what they try to do artificially is by digging this very expensive and very deep canal to bring the water back to the old riverbed. But of course, that is just a symptomatic treatment. It doesn't solve the basic reason why this bed has gone this way.
River deltas are known for being fragile and dynamic, and any small changes made to the hydrological systems will upset the already delicate balance and in turn wreak havoc on the ecosystem.
Maji nyingi sana yanachukuliwa huko majuu, huko unakuja maji kidogo ambao hata hii samaki haipati makao ya kuzaa mzuri kwa sababu hakuna maji. Samaki inatakana izae kwa matuka.
There's a big floodplain there, meaning that since it floods periodically, no one builds there. So this has created a perception, a wrong perception, that this is unused land.
Each year when there's a flood, you don't have to apply fertilizer because the natural fertilizer comes down from the uplands, from Mount Kenya, from the Aberdares and in between and settles in this delta.
When we go in there as scientists, we see the dynamics that exist there. You see a land that seems to be at rest, but no, actually right there in that piece of land is a resource for pastures during the dry season.
So this land is very important because it is a counter-seasonal grazing area.
What we see here, the little brown birds flat on the grass, are about 2,000 Madagascar pratincoles. They have just arrived from the breeding grounds in Madagascar, and this is a threatened species. The world population is estimated between 5,000 and 10,000 birds. So if there's 2,000 here, at least 20%, 1/5 of the world population of the Madagascar pratincole spends the Madagascar winter here. Thousands of these birds find refuge in the Tana Delta.
Upstream, some dams have been constructed, and the flood has been disrupted. There used to be a peak flood, a flood peak in May, but since the construction of the dams, it has been reduced by 20%.
The team has installed equipment to monitor water levels along the river and a number of weather stations around the delta.
Kama hujapitia wakaji hapa, hujauliza maswali ama hujauliza shida yake, ile research yako kuna kitu imebaki.
Such forums are held mainly to gather, share information and most importantly, learn from the indigenous people about traditional knowledge that in most cases is oral.
Every time as a researcher, when you go out to do research, you should have an open mind. And an open mind is that there's a lot of indigenous knowledge that is already existing wherever you're doing your research.
We've had to drop the method where we would be going to the field to do science for the sake of science. Because in a lot of our areas, we've discovered that the people there know a lot more than we do.
There are two species of primate, the Tana red colobus and the Tana mangabe, that only occur in those thin strips of riverine forest around the Tana River.
Where we are at right now, we have been able to build a very, very good relationship with the communities we work with. And so far, when we go out there, they recognize us and they understand why we're there. It has taken a long time to build up that trust, and it will take as much effort to maintain it.
Shamba yetu nyingi wamechukua. Saa hii watoto wetu tunazaa, sijui wataenda kulima wapi.
Tunataka hii title deed ijulikane ni kwamba ni haki ya wafugaji na hii wanyama wa pori, na isiwe na miradi yote bila wananchi kuhusishwa iletwe.
Conservation is not an animal problem, it's a human problem. So if you study conservation without reference to human dimensions, you are fast moving towards irrelevance.
In this system of the Tana River, there are obvious conflict situations or potential conflict situations. So as scientists, there's several things we can do. We can supply answers to certain questions. What are the constraints to change without transformation? So it's about doing science, responding to the questions raised, the issues raised by the communities, and feeding that information back to them, and of course also to the decision makers, because if decisions at the highest level are taken against reliable scientific knowledge, we know that the delta will disappear and it has happened in so many other places before.
Shomaninsui, shomaninsui, upate visembe. Shomaninsui, shomaninsui, upate visembe. Endani ukune jange, munapata mpawa. Endani na chamadho, munapata mamba. Endani ukune jange, munapata mpawa. Endani na chamadho, munapata mamba. Endani shakababo, munapata mamba. Shomaninsui, shomaninsui, mupate visembe. Shomaninsui, shomaninsui, mupate visembe. Shomaninsui, shomaninsui, mupate visembe. Yo, yo.